Shalom, and welcome to On the House, the podcast where you'll find everything you need to know about purchasing real estate in Israel. Hosted by Debbie Goldfischer, real estate consultant and founder and CEO of BuyItInIsrael.com. In each episode, Debbie sits down with leading industry experts to explore market trends, legal and tax issues, smart buying strategies, neighborhoods across Israel, and more. All this is On the House, helping you make the right move.
Welcome back to On the House, the podcast where we talk about everything related to purchasing real estate in Israel. This season, which began during the week of Yom Ha'atzmaut, has been dedicated not just to buying a home in Israel, but to the deeper journey of making Israel your home. We've had the privilege of speaking with inspiring and thoughtful voices, Rabbi Yehoshua Fass of Nefesh B'Nefesh, tech influencer and Israel advocate Hillel Fold, former pulpit rabbi of one of North America's largest congregations, Rabbi Stephen Przansky, and executive rabbi of Aish Global, Rabbi Daniel Rowe. Together, we've explored the emotional, spiritual, and practical sides of Aliyah, from inspiration to logistics, from longing to action. And today, in honor of Yom Yerushalayim, we're closing the season with a special episode dedicated to the city that is the beating heart of the Jewish people. The ultimate symbol of our connection to this land, Jerusalem is not only our eternal capital, but also our collective spiritual home. For thousands of years, Jews around the world have prayed toward it, and today, more and more are building lives within it. This year, as we mark the 58th anniversary of the reunification of Jerusalem, a day when we celebrate not only the physical return to the city, but the ongoing effort to make it a place where Jews from all over the world can live, thrive, and feel at home. When I thought about who to bring on for this special episode, I wanted someone knowledgeable, relevant, and deeply connected to the future of this city. And as you know by now, I always try to feature strong women in a space that's often dominated by men. We are honored to be joined today by someone who knows Jerusalem inside and out, Fleur Hassan-Nahoum, a distinguished Israeli politician, policymaker, and media expert. Fleur served as Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem from 2018, overseeing foreign relations, international economic development, tourism, and urban planning. Fluent in English, passionate about people, and deeply committed to the city's growth, she has helped shape Jerusalem's future in critical areas from housing and transportation to immigrant absorption and innovation. Fleur is also the co-founder of the UAE Israel Business Council and the Gulf Israel Women's Forum, promoting regional cooperation between the Abraham Accords. Most recently, in September 2023, she was appointed Israel's Special Envoy for Innovation, reflecting her deep commitment to advancing Israel's global partnerships and strategic future. Without further ado, Fleur, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have to say, I feel so emotional every time I come to Yerushalayim. There's just a magic in the air, something almost indescribable.
It is a special city. I mean, it's an ancient city, and it's a city that made us into the Jewish people.
Absolutely. And for anyone with open eyes, it's impossible not to notice the constant transformation of this city. The development, the renewal, it's alive, it's vibrant, it's moving. I remember when my husband and I first made Aliyah in 1999, 26 years ago. We lived in Yerushalayim for the first 2 years. I always walk a lot, and I remember thinking, there's so much potential here.
Yeah.
So many old buildings. I used to wonder what would become of them. And now, all these years later, we see it. It's a city in full renewal. The skyline is changing. Entire neighborhoods are evolving. And I sometimes think our children, and please God, our grandchildren, are going to know a very different Yerushalayim from the one that we know.
Yes. I mean, yes and no.
So since this is a real estate podcast, I want to focus our conversation today on that transformation, specifically on the housing plans, on the city's vision for growth, and the infrastructure needed to support it. So Fleur, let's dive in. Jerusalem, as we said, is changing before our eyes. The pace of development, the scope of renewal, it's just remarkable. Can you give us an overview of the city's current housing and urban renewal strategy, and what is driving this wave of development?
So, first of all, we have to say off the bat that the challenge in Jerusalem is always, how do you preserve the old, the history, the heritage, whilst making it a city of the future? So sometimes there's a tension there, but you have to understand, Jerusalem wouldn't be so special if it looked like Tel Aviv. So we don't want it to look like Tel Aviv. We have some very strict heritage rules in place, Shimur rules, as we call it here, in order for certain neighborhoods to keep their character, and in order for certain areas to remain only historic. And so the challenge is always, how do you preserve that specialness of Jerusalem, of its historic heritage, even its character, whilst looking into the future? And that's always been the tension in City Hall. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned that the Heritage Committee, which I used to head at one point, has very strict rules. So the rules are like this. Any building built before 1948, and remember, this is Jerusalem, it's a 3,000-year-old city. There's a lot of buildings that are built before 1948, has a right to be preserved. Now, that right to be preserved could be you don't touch it at all. It could be you can add 2 floors to it. It could be you have to keep this wall, but you can get rid of that wall. There's umpteen rules. But bottom line is, there is a real effort to keep Jerusalem special and holy and in character. Having said all that, we don't want a city that is unaffordable to the young generation. And unfortunately, we have 2 restrictions. If we build west, we hit a green belt, and we also constantly are in a tension with trying to preserve green spaces. But the west of our city is where the forests and the green spaces are. Some of them can be sacrificed to building and some of them can't. Mm-hmm. And on the east side, we have a political problem, which is, what happens if you build what is considered east of the Green Line. So, for example, Har Choma, which is around the corner from here, but is considered building over the Green Line, which has always been our problem in terms of the international community. So we have 2 very obvious restrictions. But in all of that, there's still a lot to build. And what Jerusalem decided a number of years ago is that we have to build up. Mm-hmm. But we can build up, not in the historic neighborhoods where you can somehow lose sight of the old city if you've built it around a concrete, jungle. You can't do that. So a few, certain hundreds of meters from the old city, you can't build in a certain way. And like I said, there's many restrictions.
Could you just give us an overview of the urban renewal strategy? Like, what are the general plans? What neighborhoods are going to go through this renewal?
So you may have noticed at the entrance of the city that there's a huge new business quarter being built there, and that's up, and that's
called the Rova.
The Rova Knisal Ha'ir. That's supposed to mirror the Azrieli type buildings on the other side of the train line. Mm-hmm. So when you land in Yitzhak Navon station, you come out and you are in the middle of what essentially will look like Tel Aviv. The light rail will take you into the center of the city, so historic parts. The south of the city, around where I live here,
Baka.
Yes, so Baka is a historic area. So there are some buildings going up, but where the buildings are really going to go up are Derech Hebron, which is all the way from Baka, even I would say the first station, to Gilo. Derech Hebron is the whole way down to Gilo, to Bethlehem, but to Gilo.
Talpiot,
all
Arnona.
of that, exactly, Talpiot, Arnona, all of that is going to have unprecedented building that Jerusalem's never seen. 40 stories Jerusalem's never seen.
Incredible.
So that's going to be massive building. And of course, that is enhanced by the idea that the train line goes down there. And so when you ask about infrastructure, the train brings urban renewal, and urban renewal brings the train. And that's what's going to be happening in this part of the city. And then there's other parts of the city that we want to continue building on, that there's ongoing. The main thing is that Jerusalem, and I think most city halls around the country, were extremely bureaucratic bodies, extremely bureaucratic. It used to take years to have a building built. And I'm not saying it's so much better now, but the mayor, who's a wonderful mayor, has really focused on cutting the regulation, cutting back the bureaucracy, getting things done quicker. And record numbers of building permits have been issued every single year over the last 5-6 years.
Phenomenal. So who would you say is the target population to bring to all these new units?
Well, I mean, a lot of people are looking, but I would say it's immigrants, olim, and young people. We want young people to stay in the city. The city is not viable if it ages and ends up being just a city of an ultra-Orthodox minority that lives in very crowded conditions and in poverty for a lot of families, and Arabs who basically live in a certain part of the city which is less relevant to this part of the city. Although we're doing a lot of building of infrastructure in the Arab sector too. In East Jerusalem, we're building a high-tech village. We're building more office space. We're building hotels.
Fantastic.
And so there's a lot going on in East Jerusalem as well, which I think is extremely important.
So can you give us a sense of the timeline for all of this? How long will this transformation actually take? Are we talking 5 years, 10 years? And what should we expect in the short term versus the long term?
Yeah, it will take 5-10 years. It would definitely take 5-10 years. We see a lot of building going up. Like you said, you walk around and you see building everywhere. Everywhere. The entrance of the city, there's one building, I think, which is done. The second building almost done. Another 2 or 3 to go. With the building, as you well said, we need all the infrastructure. So in the entrance of the city, there's a deep, large car park, which is being built. Essentially, we want people to come to the city, drop their cars off, and take the light rail. And we want Jerusalemites to drop their cars off and get the train. We need a car park for that. And so we're building it's like almost they're digging into Middle Earth.
How many cars can it accommodate?
Oh, thousands.
Really?
Yeah, it's huge.
Wow.
It's going to be huge.
Where is that?
In the entrance of the city. Right near the buildings, right near the bridge.
I mean, I often come to Yerushalayim from Modi'in. I take the train. I get out the train. I even jump on the light rail or just walk to wherever I need to go. And it's just amazing. Much better than bringing a car in. Yeah,
but a lot of Jerusalemites, until the train lines are built and they're more efficient, if they want to take the train to Tel Aviv, they've got to park their car somewhere.
Right.
So I love taking the train to Tel Aviv.
Or they could take the light rail from their home.
Yes, but I don't have a light rail close to my home. So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Until that moment, I will be driving my car and parking it in the station. And that's why there's a huge need for massive car parks. And there's going to be another one in the other side of the city, the eastern side of the city, people driving in through from Modi'in on the 443. There'll also be a huge car park near the French Hill, around that area.
I see. So we're seeing more and more mixed-use projects combining residential, commercial, retail, hotel, and public spaces all in one. Can you talk a little bit about this trend? Why is this model seen as essential for the future of Jerusalem, and how is the city encouraging it?
Well, it's actually, it's a strategy more than a trend, I would say. The idea is, and the neighborhood next to me here, Talpiot, has been zoned as mixed use. There was a lot of debate about it. At the beginning, it was only commercial. Then they wanted to make it only residential, and they came to the idea that mixed use is the way to go. And I really believe it. Why? Because if it's mixed use, you could walk to work, couldn't you? And so that's less cars on the road. There's less hassle in your life. If you could walk 10, 15 minutes to work, it's really a treat. It's quality of life.
Go downstairs, do the shopping.
Yeah.
Put the kids in the kindergarten.
Yes, exactly. That's the idea. The idea is that mixed use is really the way forward for civilization. So people spend less time on the roads, and for neighborhoods to enrich each other with the different uses. It's also safer. So, for example, commercial neighborhoods at night are not safe for women sometimes to walk around. But office spaces. Right. But if you have commercial and you have shops and you have restaurants and you have people living nearby, it's alive, it's safer, it's prosperous for the commercial spaces. It's good for the people who work around there. It's good for the people who live around there. It's good all round.
And we're seeing this all over the country, by the way. It's not just Yerushalayim. In fact, it's global. It's
a strategy, and it's a good strategy. We used to, when I was in City Hall, we used to have this program, Walk to Work. You know, you can't expect people to walk more than a quarter of an hour to go to work because, you don't want to get to work all sweaty or whatever. So, if you can walk 10, 15 minutes to get to work, you're in good
shape.
You're in good shape, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. Are there any specific projects that you can share that you believe will be game changers for the city? Any standout developments which will truly shape the next chapter of Jerusalem?
Well, I think what I mentioned in East Jerusalem, for many reasons, including political and including, just reasons of shared society, we're building a massive high-tech village in Wadi Joz, which is the closest Arab neighborhood from the old city, from that side.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, it was an area of garages, and they're pushing all the garages the way that Talpiot will push all the garages over.
Mm-hmm.
It's too valuable property to have garages there, so you can just push them to the next hill. And the same thing is going to be done in Wadi Joz, even though there was controversy over that, of course. But it's really going to be a massive project, which is going to be very prosperous for the Arabs of East Jerusalem and for Jerusalem in the whole. And that includes hotel space. We're always building hotels. We need more hotel rooms. Please God, when the tourists come back, there'll be where to stay in different affordability brackets. I think there's a feeling there's not enough in the middle affordability bracket in Jerusalem. So there'll be hotels, there'll be office space, there'll be commercial buildings.
I think the Arabs that live in East Jerusalem are the luckiest Arabs in the Middle East.
Well, potentially, I think some of them are beginning to see that way. But I think this will be a huge thing for the prosperity of all of the city. That's a big, significant project. It'll take a few years.
Any standalone residential projects that you can think of that will really be game changers?
Well, I would say that any 40-story building on Derech Hebron, and there's going to be a few of them, is going to be game changing.
Right.
40 stories is something we've never seen.
Never seen. So one concern with large-scale renewal is tenant displacement. If entire buildings are being torn down and rebuilt over 5 to 10 years, where do the current residents go in the meantime, and how is that being handled?
That's a good question. A lot of the projects in the city are not Pinui Binui. They are Tama. A lot of residents stay in the buildings. When it's impossible to, when you do a full Tama, then you can't stay. And people get compensated and find alternative places to rent.
Right.
I've never had anybody come to me complaining that they were displaced if they know they're getting a better apartment. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a problem when you're dealing with older people, because older people don't want to be displaced. And many sell.
Mm-hmm. So no one's out on the street?
No. In fact, Jerusalem has the lowest homelessness, I think the capital with the lowest homelessness in the world, or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Hashem.
Yeah.
You touched upon this, but with tens of thousands of new units expected in the coming years, how do you think this will impact affordability? Will the increase in supply cause prices to come down?
Well, that's the idea. Mm-hmm. The idea, and I think we're already beginning to see it. I think Jerusalem used to be more expensive than Tel Aviv, then it was more or less the same, and now Tel Aviv's shot up. I think the idea is that the prices are driven up by supply not being able to put up with demand. That's the bottom.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Basic economics.
Basic economics. What's also worth mentioning is that some of the new buildings are being built with government land, with all sorts of schemes for younger people to either buy or rent. So young families, because they want to encourage young families to stay in the city, there are schemes for subsidized renting in new projects.
Fantastic.
And there are schemes for purchasing at a reasonable price because they are somehow partly government subsidized. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of that too, because it's important that Jerusalem, our capital city, stays young.
Absolutely. So that's interesting, because a lot of people, I feel very pressured to buy something. There's this buzz, and everybody's saying you've got to buy something in Israel because who knows what's going to be.
Yeah, a lot of people want an insurance policy.
Absolutely. But if you say there's so much happening and so many more projects going to be developed, would you say there's less pressure?
Look, it really depends. It's a personal thing for each person. The main problem we have with the building industry at the moment is lack of workers. Mm-hmm. So things are going a little slower than they would be.
And cost of construction.
If we hadn't had the war. It's happening everywhere. But I would say, it's always a good time to buy property in Israel because it's always going to go up. So it doesn't matter, the market's crashing. I've got two friends who took out significant investments they had in the markets, a real big chunk of their investments to buy property in Israel. And they came to me both separately and they said to me, if I hadn't taken that money out to buy that apartment, that money would be 30% less than what I had. So it blessed me. I saved the loss by putting it in property in Israel. And of course, both of their properties have gone up since they bought it.
They've gained in so many other ways.
So it's, Netanyahu said years ago, what should you buy in Israel? And he said a parking space will go up. And he was right. Anything, because of this supply-demand issue, because of the fact that people really want to get onto the purchasing ladder, it will always be a good investment to buy in Israel. It'll either go up 3% a year in value, or it'll go up 5% a year, or 1%. It'll always go up. You see other countries, properties go up and down. Here, the trend is only one way.
And Yerushalayim, even more so than the rest of the country.
Absolutely. Yerushalayim, there's only one.
Let's talk about the issue of ghost apartments, homes that sit empty most of the year. This comes up often, especially in central neighborhoods. How big of a problem is this for the city, and what steps, if any, are being taken to address it?
So this is like the perennial complaint of people, the empty apartments. First of all, there's a lot less than people imagine. I know because when I was in City Hall, they wanted to double tax them. Mm-hmm. There was something that went through. It's a very difficult thing to monitor because even if people have empty apartments, sometimes they have a grandchild, they have a nephew, they have a niece.
They're not really empty. They're not really empty.
Some are, but many are not. You know what Jews are like.
Sure.
You have a big family, you have big circles. You lent it to this one, and Fagi lent it to that one, and this one came for Shabbos. So it's not a. There are. I'm not saying there aren't, but I think the trend is less acute than people think. Mm-hmm. During the beginning of the war, I actually did a campaign to try and get people with empty apartments to open their homes and let in evacuees from the north and south, and we managed to bring quite a few people homes. And I think it's just a very difficult thing to police and monitor. Like I said, I was part of a law that said, let's double tax them arnona. But then how are you going to monitor whether they were there or not? So the only way you can do it is through checking their water and their electricity bill. But again, it's not easy. It's not black and white. Right. There's people who come and they visit, and their friends and they visit. So all I can say is, look, everybody has the right to buy a home in Yerushalayim. Everybody has that right, and everybody should exercise that right. Mm-hmm. I know that people are bitter that it drives up prices for the locals, but I just think it's good prosperity for the city of Jerusalem because people who have apartments here come and spend a lot of money here. Mm-hmm. And so why not? We're all one family, one crazy dysfunctional family, but one family nevertheless.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I'm seeing a lot of people who are buying in Yerushalayim or who are considering buying in Yerushalayim initially for an investment or for a vacation home for the Chagim, but with a long-term plan to live here.
Of course.
So, it's a journey.
But in the meantime, I'm telling you, there's barely an apartment that doesn't have visitors or friends or this or that or somebody else is using it.
There's nothing really sitting empty for the long term.
Not for long term. I mean, again, there are, but it's not like, it's when we actually did the tally, and I really can't remember now because it was a number of years ago, the phenomenon was less acute than everybody imagined. We actually saw the real numbers.
I've heard over the years, people have said, I love Yerushalayim, but it doesn't have the community. I'd rather live in a place where there's more of a community. You live here in Baka. You breathe the city. Would you agree with that?
No, it depends what you're looking for. Look, if you want a moshav and you want your kids to run around and, have horses, this is not the place. But we have community. Baka is a beautiful neighborhood. Yeah. We didn't plan to come to Baka. We kind of stumbled across Baka and we just fell in love with it. We have, friends, we have a shul. It really depends where you want to fit in. Mm-hmm.
But there is community here.
Yeah. And I'm also one of those people that I can't be in the middle of nowhere. I need to be near an aroma. That right. That's near a gym. So for me, this is what's important. But there is community. We've had, when your kids go to a gun, then you build community. You build community over different kind of entry points.
Sure.
So it's normally the kids that the mothers you hang out with when your kids are in Ghana and the people you pray with. I didn't ever feel, at the beginning maybe I felt that I didn't really have a shul that I felt like going on Shabbat to. But a few years in, we found our people.
You find your place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, these towers, 40 floors, are the buildings going to be communities in and of themselves, or is there going to be like communities where everybody comes from different buildings?
That's an interesting question.
Especially there'll be shuls inside a lot of the buildings.
Exactly,
as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Many of these buildings are asking for the communal spaces to be shuls. So yes, I mean, it really does depend if... Look, an American minyan is not going to all of a sudden fit into an Israeli minyan. An Ashkenazi minyan is not all of a sudden going to go to a Moroccan shul, So people want to daven with the people from their nusach and from and who they identify with. Olim do that all the time. And that's the way that it is.
I guess time will tell. We'll see.
Look, the one thing you can say is that there's no lack of synagogues to choose from. Every corner in this place.
I always say most men don't have an excuse not to find a minyan.
No, there's a minyan everywhere. Community is a different thing, than a different thing than a minyan. Again, maybe I was lucky. We were lucky. It took us a few years, but we did find our people and a group of friends, and we have a minyan together. So that's nice. And there's plenty to choose. I mean, look, in Nemek Refrain, there's a wonderful shul for Olim. Shir Chadash on Emek, and tons of Olim go there. It's like almost like a Merkaz Klita, it's like an absorption center.
Amazing.
And there's another Anglo synagogue, and there's French synagogues, and people like to create communities with people like themselves. You can't resent that.
Sure.
You don't have to force mix people, and so you do gravitate. And there's so many different communities here that eventually you just gravitate to the people that you feel more at home with.
I'm not sure if you were able to answer this question, but these new towers, these new projects, besides Anglos, who else is buying into them?
Oh, lots of people. Lots of Israelis will buy into them.
From Yerushalayim or from outside the city?
I'd say from Yerushalayim, from outside city. People will buy for their children. Yeah, it'll be mixed. Listen, 40 stories. It's not going to be homogenous, that's for sure.
Sure. We don't want it to be.
We don't want it to be. That's Am Yisrael.
Absolutely. So we spoke a little bit about the transportation infrastructure, but let's go into a little bit more detail. Traffic and congestion have long been challenges in Jerusalem, especially as the city grows. So what are the major transportation projects currently underway to improve mobility and ease the pressure on the roads, both within the city and in connecting Jerusalem to other parts of the country?
Well, the main one is the light rail. We were the city with the first light rail line.
What are the plans? Tell us the time frame.
Oh, there's 8 lines. It's going to take 30 years. But at the moment, the blue line is the next one. The extension of the red line all the way into Hadassah Hospital. Hadassah Hospital is difficult to get to, horrible to park in.
So true.
So imagine, and there's now a train line all the way down Herzl Boulevard, which goes from the station, essentially, from the string bridge, all the way to Hadassah.
There's no incentive to take a car.
There's absolutely no... I hate driving to Hadassah. It's a nightmare. And this is amazing. There's an extension the other way as well. And there's, the new lines are going to go into the university. So places where people mass gather, students who are likely to take the train, in Givat Ram, there's going to be a line that goes into the university.
Phenomenal.
It's amazing. And then down here, there's going to be a line going all the way down Derech Hebron. That's where the big mass building's going to go.
Timing, what's that like?
Oh, I don't want to say timing because, the blue line was supposed to have already been up and running and they've hit a bunch of snags. But put it this way, within 5 to 10 years, there will be a little excuse for you to have to grab a car.
Really?
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So a topic which I know is dear to your heart. You've been a major advocate for Jerusalem's innovation and startup ecosystem. What has been done to create more job opportunities and strengthen the city's economy?
Well, we discovered a number of years ago, and this is something that I really pushed hard, that we have the biggest academic space in the country. We have 40,000 students in Jerusalem. And then they graduate.
More than Tel Aviv.
Yeah. And then they graduate because there's many more colleges and universities. So there's Hadassah Medical School. There's Hebrew University. There's 3 colleges. There's Batzalel Art and Design School.
Sure.
It's, and other smaller colleges.
Machon
Lev, the Center for Engineering. There's just many.
Sure.
And somehow the kids would graduate and run off to Tel Aviv to get good jobs. So what we did was connect academia and industry. And as a result, we're actually building a high-tech village in Givat Ram, in the Hebrew University Sciences campus. Yes. And the idea of that wasn't just infrastructural, as you can imagine. The idea was, and we've seen it happen, that there's a lot of big companies who actually sit in Givat Ram. And what does that give them? That gives them access to students. And so they basically hire students before they've had a chance to graduate. And then they don't leave the city.
Oh, wonderful.
And so this is one of the strategies that we had that Baruch Hashem is really coming to fruition.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And with the transportation infrastructure, the light rail that gets you from your apartment to the university, and then you're at work, it all comes together.
Yeah. And I also want to say that a lot of people talk about Jerusalem and they say, oh, so many people are leaving the city. And I want to say this, a lot of people do leave the city. A lot of people live in many capital cities. But you have to look, where are they leaving to? And the majority of people who leave Jerusalem leave to the wider Jerusalem, leave to the, we call it the Jerusalem metropolis, the Metropolitan Yerushalayim, which is the Gush. It's anywhere 15, 20 minutes from Jerusalem. So Bet Shemesh, the Gush, Mevaseret. So all of these areas are, people leave because they want to buy a bigger house. It's completely justifiable, and I understand them. But let's not forget, their center of life is still Jerusalem. So that's fine by me. If people want to live in Tzur Hadassah because they want to buy a big house with a garden because you can't afford it in Baka, which none of us could, but you live in Tzur Hadassah, which means Jerusalem is still where you work and where you hang out and where your kids go to lessons, and that's still okay. That's still good for the city.
So you touched upon this at the beginning. Let's talk about the Haredi population, which makes up a large and growing part of Jerusalem's demographic and plays a central role in the city's identity. What specific efforts are being made to meet the housing and infrastructure needs of this community while also balancing the city's broader urban planning goals?
So in the Haredi community, there's a lot of building going on. Of course, the northern parts of the city, where there's more space, much more than Geula, which is also... Geula and these areas, Mesharim, are also historic areas.
Yeah, but they are desperate for some kind of redevelopment.
Many, many buildings are being redeveloped, but you have to understand, a lot of these neighborhoods we can't build up so far because they're historic, because of the way that it was built before 48. So there's always a tension there with the Haredi city councillors who are like, what do I care about heritage? Let's just build for the people.
They also have an issue that they don't use the Shabbat elevator.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a way to build for Haredim. There's sukkah balconies, there's many ways that you can build for Haredis, and there's many ways that people build so the Haredis don't move in. So there is a lot of urban renewal going on in these crowded areas, but I think I'm more, the idea with the Haredim is to build more in new neighborhoods. Like they've totally taken over Neve Yaakov, for example, and areas like that.
To move them out of the center.
Well, there's so much crowdedness going on that if you want a bigger apartment for your 7 children, sometimes it's better. Now, the tension in the city is also that a lot of Haredim move into neighborhoods which were never traditionally Haredim, and then everybody gets scared and they're going to take over. And there is some justice. There's just... You have to understand people a little bit, but I'm always in favor of like trying to find a way to share society and live together. But there is always in Jerusalem this thing that, the Haredim are going to take over, and the Haredim, they have a right to live here too, as long as they're respectful of everybody else. There are some more modern communities, and there are some communities that are less tolerant. And so we have to always strike that balance. And so developers know exactly what they're building, the Haredim will want to move to and won't want to move to. And there's Ramot, for example. For the most part, Ramot has become a Haredi neighborhood. Certainly Ramot Bet and Aleph. And there's still some tensions in other parts of Ramot.
There are growing concerns among some residents about the long-term implications as the city potentially becomes majority Haredi, with lower workforce participation and increasing demand for subsidized services. How is the municipality addressing this reality while ensuring that Jerusalem remains a vibrant, inclusive city for all sectors?
So I used to have the economic development portfolio, and all I did was think about how to bring Haredi men into the workforce, how to improve the jobs of Haredi women who are already in the workforce, and what do we do about Arab women who also have 27% workforce participation, amongst the lowest in the Middle East for women.
Yeah.
So we discovered that with the Haredi men, the problem is the educational system, of course. So there are alternative educational system for boys, because the regular educational system doesn't teach math beyond age 11.
And the system encourages them not to work.
Exactly. The whole system is set up for them not to work. So, you can't go to their leaders, you go and you create alternative pathways. And there's a big trend called the Haredim Avdim, the modern Haredis, the working Haredim.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a big trend in Jerusalem.
Good.
So that's happening. And
what sort of jobs are
they're
they
not
doing?
homogeneous, the Haredim. People think that they are, but they're really not.
They're not. So what sort of jobs?
We're encouraging a lot of, development, computer engineering and development, to do boot camps, to do entrepreneurial things with tech. You see more and more. There's 2 or 3 employment centers for Haredim in the city.
Fantastic.
For training and for placement. Honestly, it's not for lack of resources put to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard because the Haredi leadership, it works against us, and that's difficult. With Arab women, we've had quite a lot of success. We've gone from 19% workforce participation to 27%.
Excellent.
So yeah, it's taken 10 years, but at least we're going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
I do a lot of work with women, Haredi and Arab women, for tech to empower them to get better jobs and to go up the ladder in tech, as well as lots of other different empowerment and enrichment stuff that we've done.
Absolutely incredible.
So, yeah.
Incredible.
There's always what to do, and Jerusalem always leads the way in these models for social and economic development.
The time has really flown, and I still have loads more questions, but I think we're going to have to wrap up. There's so much to talk about. We could probably do an entire season just on Yerushalayim, and maybe we should one day.
For sure.
So hearing about the scale of what's going on, the building, the planning, the vision, it's exciting and honestly a little bit overwhelming. You can feel that we are going through a major transformation. And I have to say personally, I believe we're living in historic times. It feels like we're witnessing the actual rebuilding and the elevation of Yerushalayim, not just the skyline, but the soul of the city. You walk around and see life pouring into every corner. There's a gathering of Jews from all over the world, the spiritual and physical return of a people to a united Yerushalayim. And it's impossible not to think of the powerful words of the prophets who literally described the physical reconstruction of the city framed in divine compassion and intention. And that's exactly what it feels like. Something bigger than all of us is unfolding. Before we let you go, Fleur, I have to ask you 2 questions that we ask all of our guests. We've spoken about it, but I'm going to ask you again. Tell us where you live in Israel and what do you love about it?
So I live in Baka, which is a really wonderful neighborhood in the southwest, I think, part of the city. And what I love about it, I love a few things about it. It is a historic neighborhood. So there's a lot of historic homes, and I'm lucky enough to live in one of them.
It's beautiful, by the way. Love it.
So I love
It's got the Spanish architecture here.
Yes, we've got a little bit of Spanish, Ottoman, also architecture.
Should have mentioned you're from Gibraltar, right?
I'm from Gibraltar.
So you feel at home.
Yes. So absolutely, I feel at home. And so what I love about Baka is the combination between old and new, east and west, past, present and future, which is really the story of Jerusalem.
Love it.
And it's also a very mixed neighborhood. So there's people, veterans here, and immigrants here, and young and old.
And all the construction that's going on around you, does it bother you? Do you notice it?
No, I'm not very fussy about these things.
You become oblivious, right?
You become oblivious. They don't normally wake me up at 6 a.m., so I'm okay. I did construction myself, so I have to be kind to people who are doing it around me. And thank God we have Shabbat to rest.
So true. And if you were to move somewhere else in the country, where would you go and why?
I would go, I'm from Gibraltar, so I miss the beach. So I would go on the beach anywhere. From Tel Aviv to Herzliya.
Give us one place.
To Caesarea. Well, I love Tel Aviv. I do. So, I'd be happy to live anywhere on the beach around Tel Aviv. I prefer the areas near Jaffa. Near the Shukar Carmel.
Nice.
Those are the areas I love.
Very nice.
So any apartment by the beach there.
Okay, we'll have to find you one.
Yes, please do.
Fleur, thank you so much for your time, for enlightening us with your deep knowledge, your personal connection, and your unwavering commitment to this city that we all care so profoundly about. You've helped us see that Jerusalem isn't just a place of historical importance. It's a living, growing city with an incredibly exciting and dynamic future. As we wrap up here in the city of Yerushalayim, we also bring Season 7 of On the House to a close. This season may have had the least to do with the technicalities, the legal advice, the mortgage tips, the financial planning. Yet for me, it has been the most rewarding because this season has touched the core of why I do what I do, why I wake up every day with a sense of mission, why I feel so deeply connected to this work of helping Jews around the world come home, now more than ever. At a time where our soldiers are risking their lives, when thousands of reservists have left their families, their wives, their children, to defend our land and protect our people, we are reminded that living in Israel is not just a dream. It's a responsibility, a privilege, and a calling. And so I hope that this season has moved you, that each conversation has brought a different lens, a different spark, a different invitation to think more deeply about what it means to live in this land and to live for something greater. I want to thank our incredible guests for giving of their time and their hearts, and of course thank you, our listeners, for being here with me. As we celebrate Yom Yerushalayim, let's remember this city and all of Israel is not just a dream of the past, not an opportunity for the present, but an eternal gift. Whether you're already living in Israel, in the process of planning, or just quietly dreaming, I hope you felt something stir in you. If this season has inspired you, do something with it. Reach out to any of our guests. I know they'd be happy to support you in any way they can. Reach out to Nefesh B'Nefesh, reach out to me, and if you'd like to connect with Fleur Hassan-Nahoum, we'll include her details in the show notes below. And of course, if you're looking to buy a home in Yerushalayim, please check out the listings on the Bayit in Israel website. If you don't find what you're looking for, it would be our greatest pleasure to help you find the right property, whether it's a new development or an existing home in Yerushalayim or anywhere else across Israel. Take that step. We're going to take a short break now, but stay tuned. Season 8 is coming soon, and it's going to be different, exciting, and full of new voices and new ways to think about your home in Israel. From all of us at Bayit in Israel, we wish you a meaningful and joyful Yom Yerushalayim. May we merit to see the ultimate redemption of Jerusalem speedily in our days, the safe and swift return of our hostages, and peace and security on all of our borders. May this city of gold, this city of hope, continue to shine as a beacon for Am Yisrael and for the entire world. Until next time, Shalom ulehitraot.
Thank you for listening to On the House. A special thanks to Mordechai Gordon, our editor, who makes it all possible. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with family and friends. For more insights, expert guidance, and access to listings and projects across Israel, visit buyitisrael.com. That's BUIT in Israel.com. Have a question or a topic you'd like Debbie to cover? You'll find contact details in the show notes. Whether you're planning Aliyah, searching for a home or a haven, or looking to support the Israeli economy, now is the time to buy it in Israel.